action. Drop the clutch, pedal to the floor. Turn that keeper into a lion's roar. Dream machine, racing queen. I'll take you wherever you wanna go. Let's blow this down, break the speed of sound. Tonight, we own the road.
Dynamite was on tonight. It is a Wednesday night. Of course, that can only mean one thing. It is your AEW Dynamite review. But Dynamite was on tonight, not as strong in the ring as last week's show. They loaded up. Tony Khan loaded up last week's show pretty good as far as the in-ring action is concerned. Hopefully, Tony Khan is down off the ledge. Last week is in the past, and now he can look forward and not backward. Because tonight I thought was a quality show. It was a newsworthy show. A lot of story advancement on the show tonight. Juice Robinson in the main event wins the Dynamite Diamond Dozen Battle Royal because we are going to have a match on TV next week. It will be Juice Robinson challenging MJF for the Dynamite Diamond ring that he has won every single year of that ring's existence. It basically is his gimmick. He's the only person who's ever officially held that diamond ring. And Juice Robinson was the most likely winner based on some of the recent goings-on television. Very interesting that after the controversial angle they did last week involving the roll of quarters, no mention of it tonight. Now, Juice Robinson has a ring of his own. No mention of what was brought up on the show last Tuesday. But you know what I like? What I like about what they're doing, about what Tony Khan is doing right now with MJF, is the fact that as the AEW World Champion, he should have a target on his back. People should be gunning for him. And now he even talked about this on commentary because he was there doing commentary for the main event. We have Juice Robinson wrestling him for the Diamond Ring next week. We have Jay White challenging him for the AEW World title coming up next month at Full Gear. Kenny Omega in a segment tonight has now effectively challenged MJF. He has talked about wanting to possibly go back after the AEW World Championship. So now you can put Kenny Omega in the pile of challengers. Wardlow is back. He's walking around with MJF's initials on his wrist tape. And we're getting vignettes with Samoa Joe teasing that he is going back after MJF in the AEW World title. And so I like that. I like that he's getting it from all angles here. And it's something that is much needed because Adam Cole is going to be gone for a very long time. And they had this story that they were telling with MJF and Adam Cole that now goes on the back burner because he had surgery and we're not going to see him back in the ring until well into 2024. They had to pivot in a different direction. And so now MJF has gone from doing, a bunch of comedy sketches on television with Adam Cole and holding the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles, which he still does, to having just a whole variety of challengers. And there was something else that happened on the show tonight because we did get another comedy vignette involving Adam Cole and Roderick Strong in the Kingdom. And in that segment, Roddy indicated that, you know what? I guess I'm just going to have to be nice to this guy, referring to MJF to try to get back in the good graces of Adam Cole. So there could be something there as well. So MJF is the man of the hour on this show. And since he's the champion, I like that. I like it when the main focus is on the actual champion on the show. But speaking of Omega, we got a rare Kenny Omega singles match. He's had a handful of them this year, but we don't get to see him in singles action as much as I would like. Well, we got a great match tonight with him and Kyle Fletcher of Aussie Open. They win the award for Match of the Night on tonight's program. But the big news was Sting, who was promoted for a segment on tonight's show. He was going to come out and he was going to make an announcement in front of the live audience. And most people figured it probably had something to do with retirement. It had something to do with his final match because he spoke at the beginning of the year about this was going to be it. This was going to be his final year in AEW. He had a match or he had an idea in mind for how he wanted to wrap things up. And then as the summer progressed and we got closer to Wembley Stadium, he said, no, that's not going to be my retirement. And it almost sounded like he was having second thoughts. And Tony Khan has told him numerous times, look, you don't have to feel pressured to hang up the boots. We would love to have you as long as possible. He was pulling the Dixie Carter, basically trying to tell him, hey, you could stay as long as you like. But Sting has made his decision. And it is now official that Sting will wrestle his final match at Revolution in March, which is the pay-per-view where he actually debuted. His first match for AEW was at Revolution in 2021. And so now, 3 years later, Sting will wrestle his final match, not only in AEW, but his final match period. Now, we know how these final matches in wrestling go. This is what he says now, but he sounds serious. He sounds like his mind is made up, and so the end is near. The end is nigh for Sting. We see that that light at the end of the tunnel. It is approaching the end. And it does make me sad, but at the same time, the man is 64 years old. And if he wrestles at Revolution, it's only going to be a few weeks before he turns 65. You get to a certain age, you know what? Enjoy your retirement. Sting has been doing this for a very long time. And he did it at a pretty high level. You know, for somebody his age, he moves a lot slower. He can't do everything that he used to do. If anything, he does too much. Every time he goes out there, I worry about the guy because he's always trying to top himself, and he's diving off balconies, and he's jumping off ladders and busting his mouth open and doing all these things. He's going to kill himself. So if anything, I wish he would pull back a little bit. But he's able to go out there and still move around and perform at a level that isn't embarrassing. You know, there's a lot of people that are even younger than him. It's embarrassing to watch them. You know, they're all crippled up. They're all beat up in their 50s, or, you know, maybe around 60-ish, and they have no business being in the ring. What I like about this is the fact, and he even talked about this in his promo tonight, is the fact that Sting is going to have the chance to close the book on his career in the way that he wants. The exact opposite of how things ended for him in WWE. When he had the match with Seth Rollins, he got hurt. He had the neck issue, which he still has. It's not like that's magically gone away. But they sidelined him. And it was very clear they were never going to clear him to come back and wrestle again. And for his career to end that way, even though it was in the ring for the WWE Championship against Seth Rollins on a pay-per-view in the main event, and I could think of worse ways to go out, this time he gets to do things the way that he wants to. Because Tony Khan would have allowed him, I'm sure, to stay another 1, 2, 3 years if he wanted to. But now he's finally able to say, you know what, this just feels right, and I'm going to go out the way that I want to go out. I wish all wrestlers had that opportunity. There are a lot of guys who don't get that chance, unfortunately. There's a lot of contemporaries of his and peers of his, even Hulk Hogan. Just interviewed by Chris Van Vliet, and he's talking about the fact that, man, I wish I could have had a retirement match, a proper retirement match, but my back, it's all wrecked, 10 surgeries. So I like the fact that Sting is getting to call his shot, but it's still sad. It does feel like the end of an era. If you've been following his career from the early days, it's pretty incredible the fact that he's even still around doing what he's doing. So that was the newsworthy item on the show tonight, but we'll go through the whole thing because this is your AEW Dynamite review for October 18th, 2023. I am the Solomonster. Like and subscribe. We are shooting for 400 likes here on this video to do Be the Booker later on. If we can get to that before the Super Chats, that would be amazing. Super Chats are open. There's a bunch of new ones in the description down below. I mentioned this the other night. Bree Mode has been updated, especially for Halloween, for a limited time only. So, again, check out the description below if that tickles your fancy. Or your balls or whatever other part of your body. Dynamite tonight open with Penta. Penta L0 Miedo. One-on-one with Switchblade Jay White. A random match, but okay. Jay White against Penta. I can live with that. Penta immediately hit a dive out of the ring that wiped out Card Blade and the other members of Bullet Club Gold. Not Jay White, though. Although he did take Jay White down shortly after that. They got into the ring. Bryce Remsburg finally called for the bell to kick off the match, and we were underway. A little while later, Jay White knocked Penta off the ropes, which caused him to tumble to the floor. Switchblade followed. He slammed Penta into the ring apron face first. Back inside, he grabs Penta's down by the ropes. And he grabs the back of Penta's mask and he ties it to the rope. How many times have we seen his mask get tied to the rope or his mask get ripped off? It might just be best for him to just retire the mask. Now, I actually don't want to see that because that's part of his character. It's part of what makes him look cool. You take the mask off, you won't look nearly as cool. But he ties the sash in the back of his mask to the middle rope, and he's slapping him, and he's kicking him. So after that, White suplexed him into the corner. He covered him for a 2 count. That took us into the picture-in-picture break. We come back, and we get a chop battle. And White even got Penta to take his shirt off. He's like, give me your best shot. They traded back and forth until Penta got Jay on his shoulders. He delivered some sort of twisting driver. I don't think I've seen him hit this move before. Only got a near fall. He tried for Fear Factor. White, though, countered out of it into a Uranagi, followed by a Brainbuster. Penta came back. He hit Made in Japan. Got a very close 2 count. So Penta was thinking Fear Factor when the guns distracted the referee. And that gave Juice Robinson a chance to hit Penta with the left hand. And on the left hand was the ring that we first saw on Collision on Saturday. He wore it for his match against Christopher Daniels. So he hit him with that, and then Jay White dropped Penta with Blade Runner for the win. So it was a good match. It never really got out of first gear. It was a good match that wasn't great. Never crossed over into that territory. But it was a much-needed win for Jay White. He's the one heading into Full Gear, challenging for the AEW World title. So no surprise there as far as the outcome. But it was pretty clear watching this here that they dropped the whole roll of quarters thing. Probably for the better, especially when you consider all the bad publicity it got them last week, which sort of overshadowed whatever good Tony Khan was hoping would come out of that Dynamite show last week. TMZ had a whole story about the roll of quarters, and he got a lot of blowback for it. So there was no mention of it. They didn't show a replay of it. There was no mention of it. It never happened. And so now, instead, Juice has a cheap TJ Maxx ring that he bought for $24.99. After the match, Jay White got on the mic. He's still walking around with the big Burberry belt. And he said that MJF is not here, which is not true. But he said an elite champion is. Says it seems like MJF is taking his sweet time answering his challenge for a tag match, but it's only because he has no friends. And Juice Robinson gave a spoiler. He said he's going to win tonight's main event battle royal, and he is going to take MJF's diamond ring, which got a TJ Maxx chant from the crowd. True story. All this talk about TJ Maxx. I got head in TJ Maxx, the foam mannequin head. This was at the height of the Al Snow head craze after he jumped over to WWE. So we're going back a long time now. And there's a TJ Maxx not far from where I live. And I may or may not have stolen the head from TJ Maxx because that was all the rage back then. Everybody, you watch those old ECW shows. Everybody had one of those styrofoam heads. But even in WWE, Al Snow and head, they were a big deal there for a while. So all I wanted to do, I just needed to get my hands on a styrofoam head. And I got my hands on one. And if you don't believe me, say hello to Head, everybody. 25 years later, he's still in pretty good shape. All right, look at that. He's a little dinged up. Right, he's got some scars. He's like the Joker in The Dark Knight. He's been through some shit, but there you go. 25 years later, everybody wants, right? There you go. So Renee was backstage for an interview with MJF, who said that he could have run out there and he would have gotten his ass handed to him. But that's what a good guy does. And he's not a good guy. He's a scumbag. So he didn't do that. He said he'll be on commentary tonight for the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal. And he didn't want to waste his pop from the crowd on a run-in. And Reagan's Cadillac says he just joined and heard Solomonster claiming he got head at TJ Maxx. Well, you never know what you're going to hear when you tune into one of these streams. So MJF said that he hopes Juice Robinson wins tonight, so next week it'll be the left hand of God against the right hand of the devil. And the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn interrupted. Max Caster said, they can accept the tag challenge. Jay White's challenge to a tag team match, so it can be the Acclaimed and Billy Gunn and MJF, and they'll take on Bullet Club Gold. And then after, he says they can all scissor with their titles. MJF declined. So Caster said, well, then I'll have to enter the Battle Royal tonight. I'll beat MJF next week, and I'll force him to put a ring on it. We had Hikaru Shida one-on-one with Emi Sakura, the woman who trained her. This was an AEW Women's World Title Eliminator match. For those who missed Title Tuesday last week, if you were watching NXT, we had the big head-to-head last week where everybody, of course, was on their best behavior. So if you were watching the other show last week, the audio listeners of this show, hey, I don't know what to tell you. You're missing out if you're not tuned into the video version. There's a lot of context that gets lost in translation. I can just imagine people sitting there listening to the audio version the next day, and they're like, what the fuck is he talking about? That's on you. But for those who missed it, Shida last week regained the AEW Women's title from Saraya, thank God, which made her the first ever 3-time AEW Women's World Champion. And, when I heard about this match, I didn't watch Rampage last week, but I'm always aware of the results and who's on the shows and what's going on. And I know that on Rampage last Friday, this was only a few days ago when it aired, Emi Sakura lost to Sky Blue. And it was a short match. It was like a 3 or 4 minute match. And so why is Emi Sakura... Now, I get the history between them. This is the story that they were telling. Emi Sakura, it's the teacher against the student, okay? I get that. Why is Emi Sakura losing on Rampage on Friday to Sky Blue and then coming to Dynamite the following week and getting an eliminator match with the Women's World Champion? That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. So Sakura wasted no time attacking Shida, and Sakura fired off some chops. Shida unloaded forearms, and Sakura backed her into the corner with some machine gun chops. She ran in for the crossbody in the corner, but Shida exploded out with a pumping knee and hit a rolling crucifix for 2. 10 corner punches connected, but Shida missed the follow-up crossbody. And this time, Sakura hit her charging corner crossbody. And that took us into the picture-in-picture break, which Sakura controlled most of. Both ladies collided into a double down. Shida got sent to the outside. Sakura sprinted down the ramp, but Shida was waiting for her with a Hurricane Rana. Back inside, Shida hit a missile drop kick for 2. Sakura connected on a high-stack Tiger Driver for a close near fall. And Sakura went up top. She missed the moonsault, which allowed Shida to hit the Katana knee strike. But Sakura kicked out at 1. She got a La Magistral cradle for a very close near fall. And both women traded tilt-a-whirl backbreakers until Shida hit a Falcon Arrow and then blasted Sakura with a Katana for the win. So there will be no Women's World Championship match for Emi Sakura. This was fine. Yeah, it would have been nice for more of it to actually take place, not in a small box, but full screen instead of being during picture-in-picture. I just wish there was more thought given to it. Look, if Sakura was going to come to Dynamite and they wanted to do the whole teacher versus student thing and make it an eliminator match, I wish there was more thought given to the fact that, okay, if we're going to use her the week before, maybe she should win. And then that gives her a little bit of momentum going into this non-title match with the world champion on Wednesday. But Tony Khan had other ideas. We went to footage earlier of a sit-down interview that Renee conducted with Adam Copeland. They billed this as his rated R rebuttal to Christian Cage. And Copeland said that things haven't quite gone the way that he wanted since coming to AEW, what he wanted to do when he got here. He said he wanted to come here and end his career with Christian, but it became pretty clear that's not what Christian wanted. He talked about how they met as kids in school, and what brought them together was their shared love of pro wrestling. And true story, my best friend, I met him in high school, And it was a similar thing where I didn't know anybody in the class. He didn't know anybody in the class. We weren't even sitting near each other. But it was an English class. And I don't even know if they still do this. But at the time, we had these exercises that we would do at the beginning of class called the Do Now. So the first thing you would do when you got into the class, it would be maybe a question. You'd have to do a little essay about whatever the Do Now was. And I don't remember all the specifics of what it was that the teacher asked, but I guess it must have been something like what's our favorite thing or our favorite show or whatever. And I heard that he watched wrestling. I had wrestling as the number one thing on my list, right? The two fucking losers that we were. Actually, quite the opposite, because this was during a period of time where wrestling was hotter than it's ever been. But at least at that moment, I said, okay, finally, I got something in common with somebody else in this class. And then, all these 25 plus years later, we're still friends. So I'm telling you, man, the power of pro wrestling to bring people together, for better or worse. That's a very real thing. But he told the story about speaking of essays, he's told the story about the essay contest that he entered when he was a kid. They both entered, with the winner getting to train to be a pro wrestler. So they would get their wrestling training paid for. That's how Edge got his foot in the door. So he wrote in, he said Christian didn't. And so fast forward a year later, and he was giving Christian the confidence that he needed to begin his wrestling training. Fast forward more, he hits it big, and he puts a good word in for his best friend. For whatever reason, over the years, it's always been Adam and Jay or E and C, and that was never his decision. That's just sort of the way it was, but he can tell that it's something that's bothered Christian. Part of him feels Christian would still be working an IT job in Southern Ontario, wondering what if he wasn't the one taking chances and opening doors for him. But when he sat down this week, he can't come to any other conclusion about why Christian is acting the way that he's acting. And so Renee asked him if he was surprised that, this jealousy was still rearing its ugly head and bubbling up to the surface. And he agreed that that's what's going on here. It's all about jealousy. He said Christian is riding high right now, and he knows he's going to come crashing to the ground. He says, I don't want to challenge him for the TNT championship. And I don't want to take the TNT title from him. He doesn't want to fight him. He says he won't. He won't fight him, but he knows that one day Luchasaurus and Nick Wayne are going to knock him down. And when that happens, he'll be the one there to pick him up. So the story here that they're telling is that Christian is basically he's the little brother of the situation. He's playing little brother. He doesn't like being little brother, and so he's jealous of Edge. And I think he even made the comment in his promo last week, now you want to be partners with me, but when you were riding high as a big single star, right, where were you wanting to tag with your old buddy Christian, right? No, you were too busy on top doing your thing. So that's the story they're telling here between these two. Christian is still sore about the whole thing. But the other story they're doing, and it's a story we've seen multiple times in wrestling before, is the story that he will not fight Christian. Now, we've seen this before. We saw this with Brett and Owen, and we saw it earlier this year with Rey and Dominic Mysterio. Now, the difference is, with Brett and Owen, they had never wrestled before. They were brothers. They were partners sometimes, but you could buy into the idea, I don't want to fight my little brother. I will not fight my brother until, of course, eventually he did. Rey and Dominic, you can understand it, right? This is his son. He brought his son into this business. He tagged with his son. They were tag team champions, and now his son is betraying him. He doesn't want to fight his son. I will never fight you, right? Until eventually he did. This is different because we've seen Edge and Christian wrestle. Not only once, we've seen Edge and Christian wrestle numerous times before. And so I get what they're going for here, but it's a little bit, I don't know, it's a little bit of a stretch just because if you know the history between these two, you've seen them in the ring before, it's like he won't fight him. I get the idea that he wanted to end his career with Christian as a tag team. And so maybe he doesn't want to fight his best friend. I just don't think it works as well as those other stories. The one good thing about it, though, is that they can use that to really build to the eventual match. and put some distance between the match whenever it takes place and whatever they want to do in the meantime. They can stretch this out now. He can go around saying, "Look, I don't want to fight him. I will not fight Christian." And then 6 months from now, right, he finally relents, and then eventually we get the Edge and Christian match. And it doesn't have to be for the TNT title at that point. It could be, but it doesn't have to be for the championship. So the one good thing is that it gives them time now to stretch this out until they do the eventual match, because there's no reason to rush into this. You know, it might be tempting for them to do the match in December when they make their debut in Montreal. You know, you want a big match between two Canadians. I mean, they have other Canadians on the roster. They could do a big match with Kenny Omega. So it could be tempting for him to want to do something then. I look at this. I mean, this could be a Revolution match. And one of the things about the show tonight is, especially with the Sting announcement, is they started the build to Revolution. So they're not only building to Full Gear, they're already looking ahead to their next pay-per-view. And I'm not even sure I can call it their next pay-per-view, because they may be adding new pay-per-views as early as December. But they're already taking steps to build to Revolution. This is at the earliest a Revolution match. And frankly, I think they can hold off on this, the first Edge and Christian AEW match, until Double or Nothing. I really don't see the need to jump right into this. You know, Edge signed for whatever he signed for, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, it's not like he signed a 6-month deal and he's going to be out. I can't imagine. So I'm sure they've got him under contract for a while. Christian's a TNT champion. He can feud with any number of people. And again, Revolution at the earliest, Double or Nothing. And then you do the big Copeland and Christian match. So there really is no need to rush right into it. We had Wardlow one-on-one against Ryan Nemeth. This was over in 30 seconds, if that, with one powerbomb. So we don't even get the powerbomb symphony anymore. It's just the one powerbomb. He gave him one of those Undertaker last ride powerbombs, where he gives him the wedgie, holds him all the way up, and then slams him down. He went to go leave when he noticed Tony Schiavone was coming to the ring. Brave man that he is. And Tony wanted to interview him, so he got back in the ring. And Schiavone asked him why he was back, and Wardlow said nothing. All he did was he held up his wrist tape, and on his wrist tape were the initials MJF, which I think someone pointed out he was wearing that last week as well. So he held it up, says MJF on it, and then as he went to leave, he shoulder checked poor Tony Schiavone, and Tony took a bump and fell down on the mat, which is easy heat. Right, so people booed him for that. You put your hands on Tony Schiavone, you're going to get easy heat. So Wardlow is coming for MJF, which is very interesting, because when Wardlow first showed up, actually even before Wardlow showed up, that's when I floated the idea. I said, well, Adam Cole is out. He's not going to be able to wrestle at Wrestle Dream. You're not doing anything with Wardlow. So why not bring him back? And you could even have him sub as MJF's partner. They could be the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, and then you can build to the eventual ambush. Wardlow, still looking for revenge on this guy that he does not like. He wants that world title. You know the history between them, the last time they fought. And then eventually you can get to an MJF Wardlow match. And then after I talk about this idea, Wardlow pops up on TV, and he is colder than an old woman's tit. He has never in his career been this ice cold before, even when he debuted. You look at him when he walks out there, he just looks like a generic caw with some muscle on him. This is not the same Wardlow that we saw 6 months ago, or whatever the last time was that we saw him on TV. It's going to take a little while to rebuild this guy. You could send him out there and powerbomb a guy here and there every week. But does Wardlow really feel hot enough to be challenging MJF for the AEW World Heavyweight title? No. So it's going to take a little bit of time. You got to build this guy back up now. You tore him down. And whatever else was going on, the passport or injuries, he has been torn down to nothing. And now you have to build him back up. I don't think you can throw him immediately into a program with MJF. The tag team thing you could have done, because that would have been one way to kind of stall for a while, and then eventually he turns on him, right? But he comes out there, and even with the crowd's not fully into it. It's sad. It's sad. It almost doesn't even look like the same person. If you looked at this man a year ago and you put them side by side then and now, it's like two totally different people. So you can get there, but I don't think you can go directly into it. It's going to take some work before you get to that point. Renee was backstage yet again, this time to interview Kenny Omega before his match with Kyle Fletcher. He said this week it's Fletcher. Next week it'll be the Don Callis family. And then after that, maybe like old times, it'll be the AEW World Championship. That brought MJF into the picture. I guess he overheard. He just so happened to be standing there. So there's MJF, and he introduced himself. He put his hand out for a handshake. Kenny accepted. Then MJF pulled himself in close to Kenny, and you could hear him whisper, 13 days, bitch. Why 13 days? This is a bit that they did on Being the Elite, I think last week or the week before. He did something similar in the locker room. He was being all jovial with the Bucks and with Kenny. And the Bucks were like, wow, he really is a different person, man. He's a nice guy now. And then he leaned into Kenny and said 13 days, or whatever the number of days was. 13 days, bitch. So in 13 days, MJF will surpass Kenny Omega as the longest reigning AEW World Champion of all time. That's what that is in reference to, for those who don't know. Earlier today, it was back to Roderick Strong's humble abode. Adam Cole brought Roddy some hot coffee as Roddy was still laid up on the couch. And Roddy went to go drink it. He spit it out. That would be my reaction if somebody gave me coffee, because I think coffee is just disgusting and it tastes like shit. I don't know how people drink that shit. Roddy spit it out and said, you know I hate hot coffee. And he said, when they first started in Ring of Honor, Cole used to make the best peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You remember that? And Cole smiled and he remembered. And he asked Cole if he still can do it. And Cole said he would make them some, because the Kingdom was there too. For whatever reason, they were banging on a drum. And so they played some, music, some lighthearted, like pop music, and they showed him making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And finally, he serves it to him. And Roddy says, Adam, you know that I hate crust. All you had to do was cut off the crust. So Cole got pissed off. He cut him off and said, damn it, I need to get surgery. I'm done with this. And he left. Roddy was screaming Adam over and over again. So Cole was gone. And Roddy said, he told the Kingdom, he goes, I know what I have to do to get back into his good graces. He said he's going to have to be nice to that scumbag, referring to MJF. That was the other idea I talked about when we were wondering, what are they going to do for Wrestle Dream for that ROH tag title match? The most obvious scenario, more so than the Wardlow one, was just having Roddy show up in his neck brace and offered to take Cole's place. And we get the very odd couple pairing of MJF and Roderick Strong. Roddy just sort of slides in there. He fills in for him. They didn't do that. Now, though, it looks like they might. We may yet end up there. We may end up at a place where he tags with MJF. And I still say, Roddy tags with MJF. He's doing it for his good friend Adam. And what ends up happening is, when they have the eventual match, MJF and Roddy against the Kingdom, he throws the match. That's how the Kingdom win the Ring of Honor tag belts. And you get those belts off of MJF. Because why is the AEW World Champion still walking around as one half of the Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions? MJF has not showed up on a single episode of Ring of Honor. Why is he walking around with the ROH Tag Team titles? That needs to end very soon. Tony Schiavone. He was in the ring. Oh, by the way, so let me go back here before I even get to the next segment here. Let's talk about Adam Cole. Because there was some confusion this week, and I mentioned this on the podcast on Sunday. Kevin Owens had a little digital exclusive, little backstage segment at SmackDown last Friday, where he was being interviewed about being traded from Raw to SmackDown. So he said, obviously I'm sad that I'm going to be away from Sami Zayn, but it's the start of a new opportunity for me. And at the very end, he goes, and I just want to give a shout out to a very good friend of mine named Adam, who just had a very serious surgery. He's in the hospital, and we're thinking about you, buddy, and, get well soon. And everybody assumed that he was referring to Adam Cole, where the belief is that he was actually referring to a completely different person, Adam Lash, who's also a friend of his. He works for a Canadian independent promotion. He was diagnosed with cancer recently, and I think had one of his kidney, I think his right kidney removed. But people assumed he was talking about Cole. And then all the wrestling websites started reporting that Adam Cole had his ankle surgery this week. So I don't know if he actually had his ankle surgery last week, or if that was just the websites running with what they thought was Kevin Owens referring to Adam Cole. Because I figured Cole had his surgery weeks ago. And all these segments that we've been seeing are either post-op or were just kind of taped all at once before he had the surgery. So whether he had it last week or he had it 2 weeks ago, I'm 99.9% sure that Adam Cole has already had at least the first surgery. He may need more than one. He's probably already had his surgery. And Britt Baker not being around for several weeks is pretty much an indication of, I think, the fact that he had the surgery and she's probably at home helping him. Because she's been missing from television now for as long as he got hurt. We haven't seen her. So that's the update on Adam Cole. I don't know if it happened last week or not, but I think it's safe to say he had the surgery. It's not a work, and we are not going to see him back in the ring for a very long time. Tony Schiavone was in the ring and said that it brought him no pleasure, none, to introduce this next person. And then he spit on the floor. I don't know why he did that. He spit on the floor, and then he introduced Don Callis. And Don Callis came out. He was flanked by Konosuke Takeshita and Powerhouse Hobbs, the newest member of his family, who destroyed Chris Jericho on last week's show. We did not see Jericho tonight, which is good. He should stay out for a few weeks. No Sammy Guevara because he is still not medically cleared from his concussion. Hobbs spoke. He said, February 22nd, 1998. I think that might be the day that Solomonster got head here from TJ Maxx. February 22nd, 1998. It was sometime around then. February 22nd, 1998. Was supposed to be the greatest day of his life. He had the chance to meet his hero, Chris Jericho. He said his grandmother, the woman that raised him, got them front row tickets to meet him. And what did Jericho do? Now, Jericho would have still been working for WCW at this point. Not that I'm saying this is a real story, but February of 98, he was still in WCW. And what did Jericho do? He looked that old lady in the face and told her to shut up. And then he looked at him and he told him to sit his ass down. 25 years. He has held on to this frustration. He said he was just a 7-year-old child. But he swore the day that he got to look Jericho dead in his eye, he was going to hurt him over and over and over and over again. And as he looked down at Chris, he said he was lifeless. So what did he do? He picked his ass up and he spine busted him. And he gave him another spine buster, and then another one, and another one. And he loved it. You know, it occurred to me that Will Hobbs has been working for AEW for 3 years now. And Jericho's been there from the very beginning. So he's been working for AEW for 3 years. And in those 3 years, he never thought to go find Chris Jericho, the man who wronged him. He's carried this burden around for 25 years. Or I guess then it would have been 22 years. But he was very patient. He waited until now to finally kick this guy's ass. That's very impressive. That's some great impulse control that he has. Callis said that all his life, Hobbs has been told by the people who supposedly love him to bottle up the hate, bottle up the violence. But now he's got a real family, a family that loves him. A family that tells him to be who he is, be who you are, be what you are. Be all you can be. Which is a killing machine. And he said they're not done with Jericho. They're going to unleash Hobbs on everybody in AEW. The Callis family is undefeated for 4 months, the past 4 months, except for one match where Sammy Guevara was injured by Jericho, and he had to get a scab worker to take his place. That was in that tag team match. He's referring to Kyle Fletcher. He said Kyle Fletcher screwed the Don Callis family. He let them down. That brought Fletcher to the ring. He was very hot about what Callis said. He said, as far as he can recall, he did that match for Callis as a favor when Will Ospreay told him that Callis was basically begging on his hands and knees for someone to step up and take Sammy Guevara's place. And maybe he was the weakest link that night, but tonight he's got Kenny Omega one-on-one, and he's going to prove to everybody, especially Callis, that he does not need anybody's help to beat Kenny Omega. And Callis said that he liked the confidence. He said that if Fletcher beats Omega tonight, the two of them may have an opportunity to discuss next week. So Kenny Omega's music hit, and he came out for the very next match, which was Kenny Omega, one-on-one with Kyle Fletcher of Aussie Open. It's always nice to get a Kenny Omega singles match on TV since we just don't get very many of them anymore. Omega sent Fletcher to the outside, followed that with a slingshot crossbody. Back inside, Omega took too long to follow up on the apron. Fletcher hit a running drop kick. He launched Omega into the front row. Hey, there's Batista. Look at him. He's getting some head too. It's just one of those nights. So after being back in the ring very briefly, Omega floated over in the corner. He hit a Hurricane Rana. Fletcher, though, cut off the attempted Terminator dive. Kenny set up Fletcher on a chair outside the ring, and then he backed all the way up to the other side, and he came charging in. As he did, though, Fletcher hit a low drop kick as Omega was coming in, and so Omega ended up falling forward. He clipped the chair. That took us into the commercial break. Back from the break, Omega tried the You Can't Escape as Fletcher avoided the moonsault. He rolled outside. But Kenny caught him anyway with a moonsault off the ropes, very Kota Ibushi style. Fletcher countered a V-trigger into a half-and-half suplex. Corner drop kick and a brainbuster got him a near fall. Fletcher then delivered this was a vicious snake eyes in the corner. He gave Omega a snake eyes face first into the middle turnbuckle. He just lawn darted him face first into the buckle. And then he hit a Michinoku driver for a close 2 count. Omega fired back with a V-trigger, a poison Rana, a high stack powerbomb, another V-trigger, and he could not believe that none of this can put Kyle Fletcher away. So another V-trigger connected. Fletcher countered the one-winged angel into a dragon sleeper. Both men traded counters until Kenny hit a snapdragon, turned Fletcher inside out with a huge V-trigger, and then finally hit the one-winged angel for the win. So this was a really good match. This was the match of the night, easily. It's not even close. Omega looked great. Fletcher also very impressive. He impressed here in this match. And it's just nice to see him get a chance to shine while his partner is on the shelf. Mark Davis has the broken wrist. We don't know how long he'll be out for. But it's good that they have found things for Kyle Fletcher to do. And every time he goes out there and he has the kind of performance like he had tonight or in that tag match a few weeks ago, all it does is elevate his stock. And who knows? Who's to say, depending on how long Mark Davis is going to be out for, who's to say he doesn't end up with a solid singles run out of it? I've compared it to Ivar and the Viking Raiders on Raw. Eric is going to be gone for probably the next 6 months. He just had surgery. So now he wasn't on TV this week, but we've seen Ivar now several weeks in a row on TV, and he has impressed, right? Very similar situation. Instead of leaving these guys on the side and just waiting with nothing to do until their partner comes back, give them something to do. He's not winning so far, but, Fletcher, every time we've seen him, has knocked it out of the park so far. Then this was actually one of my favorite parts of the show, and I want you to guess why that was. We got a Danhausen. Now, I know they've aired some Danhausen stuff recently. I've never made reference to it. But they aired a Danhausen video. It was on like an old television screen. And it was to the tune of the Silver Shamrock theme from Halloween 3. The one Halloween that did not have Michael Myers in it. But that damn jingle, if you've never heard it before, it is very, very catchy. Just go on YouTube and type in Silver Shamrock, and you will see the commercial that aired in the movie for the Halloween masks for all the kids that ultimately, when they put them on at 9 o'clock on Halloween, would melt their brains. And so here it was basically a bunch of Danhausen phrases, but to the tune of Silver Shamrock. So that put a smile on my face. I very much enjoyed that. And if you have not seen Season of the Witch, make sure you take some time to watch it, because it is on its own, it is a horror movie I think that is worth watching. We have the Murder Hawk Monster, Lance Archer. Holy shit, when was the last time we saw this guy on Dynamite? Lance Archer against Barrett Brown. No Jake the Snake Roberts in Archer's corner. Archer sent Brown tumbling down the aisle during his intro. That's how they entered. He was already kicking this guy's ass. And he chokeslammed this guy. Vicious chokeslam. I mean, he fucking slammed this guy on the apron. The bell finally sounds, and he hits a release suplex. He throws Brown halfway across the ring. And Brown tried to fight back. Resistance was futile. And in the end, he hit the blackout for the win. This was Lance Archer's first match on Dynamite since June of last year. That is how long it has been since we have seen this man on this show. And it will never get old seeing him lay waste to people like this. But it would be nice if they actually, got him some sort of story to be involved in. The problem I see for him is that he and Wardlow are doing the same exact gimmick right now. On the same show, in fact. Wardlow came out, right? Stormed to the ring, hit one big move, and that was it. And we've seen him do that now for several weeks on the show, where he'll come out, he'll powerbomb somebody a few times, and within 60 seconds, the match is over. So if these two end up being matched up, I mean, that could be something for Archer to do. I don't see that ending well for him, especially if they're already teasing something with Wardlow and MJF down the line. If we get Wardlow and Archer, Wardlow's going to come out of that for the better. But just to give him something to do, So we saw him tonight. Are we not going to see him again for 6 months? Is there a plan here, or is there not a plan here? That's the question. Excalibur informed us that on Friday, there is going to be the world video premiere of Swerve Strickland's remix theme, Big Pressure, with Flash garments. It's going to premiere on YouTube. They showed Strickland and Prince Nana, who are coming to House of Glory, by the way. Friday night, December 1st. Get your tickets now. Strickland and Prince Nana, they were shown walking at the graffiti park in Houston. They were in Texas. And they're at this graffiti park. And Strickland said that he should be excited to be here right now, but he's not. He should be celebrating with the TNT Championship, but he's not. And the reason he's not is because of Hangman Adam Page. Strickland told Page to remember it's not always you who pays for your actions, which sounded like a threat to the Young Bucks. Tony Schiavone was back in the ring, and this was the newsworthy part of tonight's show. He said that it was back in 1987 when he first introduced this man on television, not only on television, but on this very network, in fact. And it brings him great pleasure to introduce Sting, but he did it in the way that he always does, right? It's Sting! And so Sting comes out. And he was here to address the fans. Sting gets in the ring. He immediately takes the mic from Tony Schiavone, who leaves the ring. And Sting asked us, he says, shall I say the word? Before I say the word, I want to reflect a little bit, because that word makes me want to reflect. And he says it makes him think about all the years coming up and down the road with guys like Lex Luger and the Steiner brothers and Buff Bagwell. He said they would look at this, they would look at the generation ahead of them. So the guys that came before them. Men like Dusty Rhodes. And of course, he said some very nice words about Dusty, who got some nice cheers. And then he mentioned Hulk Hogan, who got booed. It was like WrestleMania 37 all over again. You know what was doubly embarrassing about that? When he came out with Titus O'Neil at the Pirate WrestleMania, that was in Tampa. That's where Hogan lives. That's where Hogan is from, and he still got booed. So he mentions Hogan's name, and they all booed. And, I'd like to think that it was because Hollywood Hogan was the arch rival of Sting, right? The NWO were Sting's rivals for so many years. And people remember that, and so they booed. But they probably booed just because of, you know, a shit person. So that's why they booed. But anyway, so they booed Hogan, and Sting, of course, he hears this. He can't ignore this. And he says, I hear you. But he said, Hogan transcended wrestling, which is true. You can say what you want about Hulk Hogan, but one of the biggest stars of all time, he transcended the business. Hogan, and I've said this before, Hogan did something that nobody else has ever done in the history of the business, certainly at the level that he did it. He put one company on his back as a babyface and helped take that company national and had that big Hulkamania run that he had as a babyface in the mid-'80s, right? Which was huge. And then he did the same thing years later in a different company as a heel. And he completely just transformed their business. I can't think of anybody else who's ever done that, certainly not at that level before, where he had that Hulkamania run as a babyface in one company, he went somewhere else, and then as a bad guy, had the kind of success and lifted WCW to the heights that he helped lift it to in 96. So whatever you think of Hogan, that is something that, I mean, that gives him his Mount Rushmore place right there, if nothing else. So then he mentioned Ric Flair, who got plenty of cheers, and he says, I remember the Clash of the Champions in 1988. My first world championship match, he said, Flair put me on the map. So he thanked Flair for that. He brought up the Great American Bash in 1990 in Baltimore when he finally won the championship from Rick, and so he thanked Flair again. But they used to wonder, you know, him and Luger and the Steiners and Buff Bagwell. They used to wonder when they were thinking about all these men that came before them, like, why are they still around? Like, why can't they just hang it up? Why are they still doing this? What makes them keep coming back year after year? They've got nothing left to prove. And yet here he is all these years later. And now he gets it. Now he understands why. Because, you know, it's the camaraderie. It's going up and down the roads and being on the road with the boys. But he said it's the roar of the crowd. It's all of these things. It's just, it's like, it is. You know, a lot of wrestlers have described it like a drug. You know, it's you get it in your blood. It's hard to get it out. He says, does my body do the same things it did 20 years ago? No. He said, should I be jumping off balconies? And the crowd cheered. All these fucking people encouraging this behavior. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you people? You're part of the problem. So they cheered this. And he told them, we'll get back to that. He never did get back to that, by the way. But now that we know when his retirement match is going to be, I'm a little bit worried for what he has planned in that match. If he's going out, he may be going out in a blaze of glory. So the crowd chanted, you still got it. He said, I know some of you are thinking, you know, you retired once already. But I got to tell you, that retirement in 2015 just didn't sit right with me. And there was one very key moment in my retirement speech. He's talking about the Hall of Fame. When he said, the only thing about Sting that's for sure is that nothing is for sure. Which brings him to the word retirement again. He says he started his very first match with AEW. His very first match was Revolution 2021. I think that was the cinematic match against Team Taz. And his very last match with AEW, his very last match period, is going to be at Revolution in 2024. So one more key thing that we all need to know. The only thing for sure about Sting is that his retirement, Revolution 2024, is for sure. So there it is. We now have the date. We have the name of the event. We don't know. I don't think we know yet where Revolution is taking place. And we don't know who it's going to be against. But we now have a date. 5 months, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. 5 months. The countdown is on to the end of Sting. And again, I know it's wrestling and people say they're going to retire. And is it really going to be his last match? I don't know. In wrestling, you're always just one really good offer away from coming out of retirement. But I do believe that this will mark the end of his final full-time run in a major promotion. It doesn't mean that he won't still be under AEW contract. If I'm Tony Khan, I want Sting under contract. I want him, if I do another video game, if I'm doing another round of action figures, I want him to make special appearances and be an ambassador for the company. Absolutely. I still want Sting as part of my organization. But as far as him signing a contract and doing matches and stuff, I truly do believe that this is it. He's not going back to WWE. He's not going back to Impact, right? Dixie's not there anymore to throw money at him. This is it. This is finally the end for Sting. And I posted this note earlier today on Twitter. A lot has been made about Tony Khan and his booking. And Tony Khan's booking, he's booked, he's done some really great stuff, and he's done some stuff that just makes you scratch your head and wonder what the hell. What the hell is he doing? Why are we seeing people and then not seeing them for months at a time? But one thing I've always given him credit for, and I will still give him credit for, is the way that he utilizes a lot of the legends that he has brought in. And in particular, Sting. Sting was not even supposed to wrestle anything but cinematic matches. And then it just sort of grew into this thing where he just started doing matches. Now, it's been mostly tag team matches. But the way that Tony Khan has booked and used Sting, and mainly the partnership with Darby Allin, has been masterful. It's been a great thing for Darby Allin. And I think him getting the rub by being associated with Sting and hanging out with Sting and being out there in the ring with him, I think has been beneficial for both of them, but especially Darby Allin. But I think that it is one of Tony Khan's greatest booking decisions, is the way that he has been able to utilize Sting. He's not overexposed, but he's also not, it's not a situation where we only see him once every, 6 months or something like that. I think that he deserves credit for that. Even if I am concerned about some of the shit that he allows this guy to do on TV, which I think is completely unnecessary. And I've mentioned that before also. But I've also said that, look, I'm just appreciating Sting every time I get to see him because this ain't going to be going on for much longer. So when he's out there, I appreciate the fact that I get to see him. When I went to Grand Slam at Arthur Ashe Stadium last year, I figured this might be the last time I ever see Sting wrestle a match. As it turned out, it probably will be. That was the night they brought the Great Muta out. So I got to see Sting and the Great Muta in the ring together. When is that going to happen again? I mean, it happened in Japan earlier this year. I'm not flying all the way to Japan to see Sting wrestle a match. So it's going to be a few weeks shy of his 65th birthday when he wrestles this match next year. And it's very cool that he gets to end his career on his terms. The question now, who does he wrestle? Who's he going to work with? What kind of match is he going to have? Darby Allin has said, he's gone on the record and said he does not want to be Sting's retirement match. Not that he wouldn't mind teaming with him, but he doesn't want to be in the ring against him. And I'm not even sure, frankly, what Darby's availability is going to be if he's serious about this Mount Everest thing. He's supposed to climb Mount Everest, I think, in April. This pay-per-view is in March. So who even knows if he'll be there? It wouldn't feel right if he wasn't there because he's been associated with Sting from day one in AEW. So how could Darby not be part of it? But Darby has said, I don't want to work with him one-on-one against him in his retirement match. So if that's not going to happen, Sting has wrestled, how many singles matches has Sting had in AEW? Has he had any? Maybe one? It's been mostly tag team matches. So I think we have to assume that it will probably be a tag match. Now, March is still a ways off, but think back to Wrestle Dream, right? When Adam Copeland showed up and at the end of the show, he shook hands with Darby and he shook hands with Sting. I could envision Sting being in a trios match for his retirement match, where it's Sting, Darby Allin, and Adam Copeland against Christian Cage, Luchasaurus, and Nick Wayne. Now, I say this sitting here in October. Again, March, 5 months away. A lot can happen in 5 months. And if they still haven't done the Copeland Christian match by that point, singles match, like if they did, let's say, wait until Double or Nothing, it would be a way to get them in the ring together. Christian could avoid wrestling hit. Like, we get that first little tease of Christian and Copeland without actually getting the singles match. So I could see something like that. And plus, you get the whole, like, Copeland and Sting being tag team partners, and Sting could get the win, with the Scorpion Deathlock. He puts the little brat, friggin' Nick Wayne in the Scorpion Deathlock and taps him out. He goes out with a win. Because, yeah, I mean, Sting could do the honors. He could put somebody over. But, it would be cool to see him, get his hand raised in his final match and get the big celebration. So, I don't know. I don't know as I sit here now who the opponent would be if we assume it's going to be a tag match of some kind and not a singles match. But it would not feel right to me if Darby was not either in his corner, partnered with him, or involved in some way, because, again, they've been together since day one when Sting came into the company. And I think you have to have that image of Sting, embracing him and sort of, I mean, it sounds weird to say passing the torch. That's not really the right phrase to use, but, kind of sending him on his way and saying, look, you gave me new life that I didn't know I had here in wrestling. I want to thank you for that. And you're going to be a future world champion in this company. You're going to have to do it by yourself now. It gives Darby the big send-off. But we'll see. Tony Khan, they said, is going to have a gift for Sting on Dynamite next week. So, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even want to venture a guess what this gift is going to be. But he's going to have some kind of a gift for him. So, RJ City was backstage. He was about to introduce Toni Storm's second film, Gone with the Storm, when Toni herself interrupted and told us all, chins up, tits out, enjoy the film. And so we got another silent film during the picture-in-picture break, which is smart. Yeah, it's a smart way to try to keep people paying attention to the show while it's in picture-in-picture, even though you can't hear anything. By having something going on inside the box. And I love the Toni Storm stuff, so if anything, I don't think we didn't get enough of her on the show this week. But we got another silent film. Then we had a sit-down interview with Jim Ross. Jim Ross sat down with Nick Wayne and Nick Wayne's mother, who still doesn't have a name. I don't believe they've given her a name on TV, so I'm just going to call her, she's Nick Wayne's mom. That's her name. JR said that if Nick's father was there, he could help them out. He said that he couldn't get over what Nick did to Darby Allin. He said having great friends in pro wrestling is rare. And he asked Nick's mom what she was thinking when it happened. And then he asked her for her number. And Nick's mom slapped JR and told him to control himself. No. Not that much of a stretch, though. If you've seen Jim Ross on Twitter, he's a thirsty fella. I wouldn't be surprised if he tried to, get in the good graces of Nick Wayne's mom. See, I'm booking a whole storyline now that people don't want to see. So anyway, she said that it was shocking when she saw what happened. And she can't make sense of it. She said it was out of character for her son. She remembered Christian saying things about her and Nick's late father, Buddy Wayne. She said that she doesn't recognize her son anymore. And she told him, this is not the way. This is not the way, son. And Nick got upset and he said, he's always been in Darby's shadow. He said it's time to prove himself and prove why he's in AEW. He told his mom, this is me. And he said that Christian is a better father figure than my father ever was. Christian showed up. Got a big pop, too. All he did was he walked into the camera frame. He was standing next to Nick Wayne as he was sitting down. And he got a big pop from the people in the crowd. And Christian asked him, are you ready to come home, son? Nick got up to go leave. Nick's mom tried to stop him, and he spun away and told her, don't touch me. And Nick said that she was a terrible mother, and she slapped him right across the face. And immediately she regretted her decision. She started apologizing profusely for what she had done. Nick said, you're dead to me. And he left. And as Christian went to go leave, he looks at Nick Wayne's mom and he says to her, "You should have picked up the phone." And he closed the door behind him. Because remember, he said, Nick's mom, he's going to call her. Said, "You should have picked up the phone." He's such a perfect douchebag. There's nobody in wrestling who plays the douchebag role better than this man. Like, he knows his character so well, and he plays it so well and so straight when he's on camera. It's what makes him so fun to watch. So all of a sudden, the door closes behind him, and Nick Wayne's mom she's like by the door, and she's beside herself. But all of a sudden, she could hear this commotion, like someone's getting their ass kicked on the other side of the door. So she opens the door, and Christian is laid out on the ground. And then we see it's Darby Allin, and Darby is going after her son. They fight out onto the stage, the arena. Luchasaurus attacks Darby from behind. Christian's back. Now he's watching. Sting comes back out. He runs Luchasaurus into the guardrail at ringside. Then they show Nick Wayne is laid out on the ramp, and he's got blood coming from his mouth, and it looks like his tooth is like broken in half. And he's laying there. In the ring, Sting tried to put Christian in the Scorpion Deathlock. Luchasaurus pulled Cage out to safety. And Sting and Darby are standing side by side at the ring. Cage went to go check on Nick, who pointed to his mouth, and Cage yelled he yelled about what Darby did to Nick's poor tooth. It's a good thing they have a dentist on the roster. It's good for him, even though she wasn't there this week. It's good for him. I see Bash he's a big fan of Nick's mom. She's a very she's a mature woman. I mean, look, Nick's. I shouldn't get myself in trouble. Backstage, Renee interviewed Orange Cassidy, Hook, Chris Statlander, Trent Beretta, and Chuck Taylor. Statlander talked about defending her TBS title against Willow Nightingale at Battle of the Belts. So we have 2 hours of Collision on Saturday, and they're going to follow that up with Battle of the Belts. It's a 3-hour block. Cassidy said he knew he cared about the international title, but he didn't know how much until he lost it. And he said there's unfinished business, and he has something to prove at Battle of the Belts on Saturday. The main event was the Dynamite Diamond Battle Royal, the Diamond Dozen Battle Royal, with the winner challenging MJF for the Diamond Ring next week. The participants, Juice Robinson, Max Caster, Daniel Garcia, who also popped up at the Hog Show last week. You never know who might show up. He did the dance, too. He did his little Daniel Garcia dance that he does. It was him and Brother Zay showed up. Dustin Rhodes, Matt Menard, Jeff Hardy, Trent Beretta, Jake Hager, Commander. Is that the right way to say it? Matt Hardy, Matt Sydal, and Johnny TV. I had forgotten that John Hennigan was even employed by AEW. I totally forgot that he was even there. So there's Johnny TV. MJF joined on commentary. Johnny was quickly in the middle of things here. He eliminated Matt Sydal. This nearly resulted in a dance battle between him and Daniel Garcia, but Matt Menard put a stop to that. Dustin Rhodes and Matt Hardy, they teamed up to eliminate Johnny, so adios. Matt tried an elbow off the second rope. Hager caught him in midair and dumped him out. MJF at that point left the commentary desk to run down to the ring. He got up on the apron and he got in Dustin Rhodes' ear, and he was trying to pay him off to take out Juice. And Dustin ended up delivering Shattered Dreams to Juice Robinson. Commander was eliminated by Matt Menard and Daniel Garcia. So Dustin delivered a Canadian Destroyer to Garcia. Of course, that is his favorite move. Hit the Canadian Destroyer, eliminated Hager. Menard and Beretta, they fought on the apron, and Garcia saved Menard, which allowed him to dump Beretta. Jeff Hardy got a running start. Garcia avoided it. He eliminated Jeff Hardy. And for the third time, Menard stopped Garcia from dancing, and it led to a shoving contest between both men. And they attacked Dustin after that. Garcia ran into Menard, which allowed Rhodes to dump Menard, and Garcia then dumped Dustin, which means that we are now down to Max Caster, Daniel Garcia, and Juice Robinson. And Garcia finally did his dance. It got him eliminated by Max Caster. So the two most obvious choices to win this match were the final two. It was Max Caster and Juice Robinson. Robinson wanted a suplex on the floor. Caster held on. Both men were out on the apron. Robinson raked the eyes. Both men scaled the ropes, and Robinson fell into the ring, and Caster then hit the mic drop elbow. All of a sudden, Jay White comes out. He attacks MJF on stage at the announce desk, and the fight carried over onto the stage. MJF got his belt back. He got the AEW World title back, but only briefly, before Jay White delivered a low blow. This distracted Caster in the ring, which allowed Juice to put on his TJ Maxx ring and KO him. And that eliminated Max Caster. Juice Robinson wins the match. Bullet Club Gold. They had a stare down with MJF as Jay White held the AEW title, and Robinson flashed his shitty ring to close out the show. Dustin Rhodes was over pretty big, but they were in Texas, so it makes sense he should be. Otherwise, this was your standard battle royal. Nothing special. With the predictable winner. Juice Robinson was the most predictable winner. And next week, it's going to be MJF against Juice for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. So on the whole, I thought it was a quality show. Not quite as strong as last week's show, especially in the ring. The in-ring action was much better on last week's show. But I really enjoy the champion being targeted by different people. All coming at him from different angles. Because he should be. The AEW champion should have a target on his back. And it just gives him plenty to work with now that the Adam Cole storyline has taken a back seat. They had to figure out a plan B. And so he went from the story with Adam Cole and, Roddy and the Kingdom being involved. Roddy and the Kingdom are still involved. Roddy is teasing now that he's going to have to, buddy up to MJF. But like I said, you've got Samoa Joe gunning for him. Kenny Omega teased that he might soon be gunning for him. Wardlow is teasing that he's going to be going after him. Juice next week. Jay White at Full Gear. Right? That's a lot. You've now mapped out the next several months for MJF. And by the way, there's still a future rematch with MJF and Ricky Starks that they never got back to from last year when they wrestled at Winter is Coming. And MJF was a heel. Ricky was a babyface. Now the roles are flipped. But they could always revisit that as well. Ricky's one half of the tag team champions right now, but why not get back to Ricky Starks and MJF at some point early in 2024? So they've mapped out a lot of different potential destinations for him, which is good. Now, Rampage on Friday has Rocky Romero against Mystico. And this is a battle for Mexico's pound-for-pound crown. And this is the first time that CMLL and AEW are working together. So it could be the start of a working relationship between the two sides. Apparently, with the announcement of Mystico being on the show, they've moved apparently over 2,000 more tickets for the show. How many of those tickets, would have been moved anyway, as compared to, just it being the announcement of Mystico? I mean, I guess they must be taping it tonight. So I guess they moved all those extra seats for tonight. But Claudio and Wheeler Yuta in action. Sky Blue takes on Ruby Soho. Brother Zay against Kip Sabian against John Silver. And the winner of that match will challenge Orange Cassidy at Battle of the Belts for the International Championship. So boy, these they're going all out for these Battle of the Belt specials, aren't they? We're going to see Orange Cassidy against John Silver or Kip Sabian. Collision on Saturday has Ricky Starks and Big Bill defending their AEW tag team titles against Claudio and Wheeler Yuta. Miro is going to be taking on Action Andretti. And then on the Battle of the Belt special, we have Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed defending their trios titles against Daniel Garcia, Matt Menard, and Angelo Parker. Chris Statlander against Willow Nightingale for the TBS title. That should be a very good match. And again, Orange Cassidy defends his belt. And then Dynamite next week has Tony Khan with a gift to Sting. Rob Van Dam and Hook are going to be in action, so they're bringing RVD back for the third time. And MJF defends the Dynamite Diamond Ring against Juice Robinson. So that is the lineup for next week. Yeah, the Battle of the Belt specials The Battle of the Belts specials are a contractual obligation. They are not treated with any sense of real urgency or importance. It is not must-see in any way, shape, or form. That is all it is. They are contractually obligated to do these quarterly specials, and so these are the kinds of matches that we end up. It's like a glorified Rampage. That's basically what they are. Not a priority at all. Here's the poll for tonight. A little shy of 71% thumbs up compared to 29% thumbs down. I believe Raw beats Dynamite in the poll. Well, Raw was a very good show. Still too long, but Raw was a very good show. But 70 up, 29 down. At Solomonster on Twitter or X or Twitter X or X Twitter, whatever the hell it's called. Jesus Christ. All right. Let's take a look at your super chats. Again, the Be the Booker goal tonight was 400 likes. I said, boy, it would be real nice if we can get to 400 before I get to the super chats, and we have done that. So thank you for that. Well, let's get to your super chats. We don't have too many of them. Doesn't look like. Lady Fire Panda, start with you. Fire Panda with the $20 says, prediction for the Royal Rumble comes down to Solo Sikoa, Kevin Owens, Jimmy, Jay, Sammy, and Cody. With KO eliminating Jimmy, Solo eliminating Owens, Sammy eliminating Solo, Jay eliminating Sammy, Cody eliminating Jay. I'm confused. That's Lady Fire Panda's prediction for the Royal Rumble. Fire Panda again says, I found this book in my house called The Ancient Texts. I looked inside to see what it's about. It's a bunch of facts about you, Solomonster. I'm going to keep reading it and see what else I can discover about you. Well, it might have my TJ Maxx story from 1998. Vegeta Black, $14 super chat. Do you think heels in wrestling should win more matches without outside interference? One of the reasons I feel Gunther feels like a big deal is that he doesn't have outside help like others. What do you say? Yeah, it would be nice to see more of it, but you can't have everybody win that way because then it's not special. That's part of the reason why it makes Gunther feel different from all the other heels. So if all the heels were able to win clean, it wouldn't, it wouldn't be the same. But it does feel like there is an over-reliance on chicken shit heels. It would be nice to see some more people, some more heels winning cleanly than we currently do. Tommy Colella with the $10. Do you think Adam would allow Christian Cage to say your mother would be so proud of you and would be cheering you on in the front row, but your mother is dead since Edge doesn't have a father? They've been best friends for 40 years. I don't think there's probably no line that can't be crossed between them. So I'm sure Christian would have no issue doing it if he thought that Adam was comfortable with it. It's exactly the kind of douchebag thing that I would expect Christian to say. DJ Pharaoh, NWA to CW Network. And they're looking to ramp up their sports with the announcement earlier this year of NASCAR's secondary division, the Xfinity Series moving exclusively to CW from USA. Yeah, I saw the announcement earlier. I was just talking about this on episode 830. I said my prediction was either Ion Television or the CW. So there it is. They're going to the CW. They have 2 television deals. One is very likely for their NWA Power show, but there's probably going to be some sort of reality show as well. And it looks like both of them are coming to the CW. And that is the Top 20 network that Billy Corgan was referring to on Busted Open Radio last week. So we'll have to wait until we get some more details. But yes, the NWA is going to CW. All right. See, I remember the days when CW had all those teeny bopper shows, right? They had One Tree Hill, and they had what was the Superman show? They had some kind of Clark Kent or whatever the name of the Superman origin show was. I mean, does the CW have any of those types of shows anymore? Ace of Masta, who I believe has been a channel member for 27 months. Ace of Masta says $10 for Nick Wayne's tooth. I thought you were going to say $10 for Nick Wayne's mom. I think she's worth more than that. Shaquille Oatmeal, do you think Don Callis will have 12 disciples? No, that would be far too many. Ah, yes, Seventh Heaven. I remember that. Didn't the father turn out to be like a sexual predator or something? The actor who played the father on the show? Smallville, thank you. That was the name of the Superman show. Smallville. Gilmore Girls. Well, you know more about these shows than I do. Arrow, Flash. Paul Carpenter. Was Devil Ninja's Gim canned on the low? He's talking about the 5 ninjas that attacked with the devil mask. Yeah, you know what? I guess they haven't really followed up on that, but it's only been a few weeks. I would give it a little more time before we decide whether or not they have bailed on that story. Could just be that it's on the back burner for now, or it could play out at full gear. Again, it only happened a few weeks ago. EJ Slemp. I've had a tough few days because of a tragedy in my hometown that made international news. This podcast really helped take my mind off of it, so thank you. You're very welcome, EJ. I'm sorry to hear about that. I don't know which... there's been so many awful things on the news, but whatever it is, I'm sorry to hear that. But I'm glad that we can help take your mind off things. Mr. GMB with the $5 super chat. Which one would interest you more and why? Heel Jade against face Bianca or face Jade against heel Bianca, and why? I just think Jade is a natural heel. But that isn't really the first feud I would throw her into either. But if I had a pick of the two, I think, as much as I would like to see heel Bianca, I think heel Jade and face Bianca. Just because I think Jade should be... I feel like Jade should be a heel. She may not be initially, but I think she should. Noel Mulligan with a couple of super chats. $11 in total. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Paul Carpenter, we need Christian to hit the kill switch on Betty. Is that her name? Betty Wayne? Do we finally have a name for Nick Wayne's mom? Sonic Youth. Missed you last Friday. Hope you're doing well. #Hog. Well, I'm sorry I missed you too. There were a whole bunch of people who came up and said hello. A lot of listeners of the show were there at that show on Friday, which was very cool. So it's always fun to meet people. Hopefully you will be there on December 1st. It's our next show. Arabian Night 2000. Will you be watching Bound for Glory this week? It's a very strong card. Bayley against Ospreay is a match of the year candidate. I'm happy for Don West and Mike Tenay's Hall of Fame induction. Bayley and Ospreay is a tremendous match, but I will not be watching Bound for Glory this weekend. Joey Jojo Jr. with the $6. I used to be so unimpressed with Jay White as a main eventer until the 2020 G1. Now I think he's one of the most well-rounded wrestlers. Would not mind if he won the title from MJF and had a short run. Absolutely. Didn't have a very long run with the IWGP title either, but I wasn't sold on him initially, and over time he won me over. I'm kind of in the same boat. And I don't remember when I would pinpoint it, if it would be maybe 2019. Or 2019, 2020. Probably around the same time I really started to come around on him just as an overall performer. And he started to really win me over. Matt McClure. You got head in a TJ Maxx. Hey. It can happen anywhere. Isn't that right? Dan Richards, be the booker. MJF has multiple challengers. Create a gimmick match that is unique-ish for MJF to defend his title. And who else is added and who wins? So that's for Be the Booker. Is that a suggestion? I might have to consider it. Daniel Malcolm, thank you for the $2. Very much appreciated. Darius Roby, first time super chatter. Welcome, Darius, with the $4.99. Who the hell is supposed to be scared of Nick Wayne? It's a great question. I don't know. I don't know. He's got that young Sean Waltman vibe going on, and there weren't very many people who were all that scared of Sean Waltman either back in the day. So I think the answer is no one. I think that's kind of the point. That's what makes him so hateable. You know, he thinks he's hot shit, but at the end of the day, ain't nobody scared of Nick Wayne. And Kiddo Hudson, what is the gift? What if the gift Tony Khan is giving to Sting was his head? Yeet. You know what I could actually see? Tony comes out and it's this big gift box and he opens it up. And it's almost like a Money in the Bank briefcase where he opens it up and there's a contract inside. And Tony gets on his knees and says, please, re-sign with me, Sting. Stick around one more year. He pulls a Dixie and tries to get him to sign a contract. Then as Sting is leaving, he latches on to Sting's leg like Dixie did to Hogan when Hogan walked out of Impact. And he has to drag Tony up the ramp as Tony begs him to stay. Maybe that's the gift. Hey, for enough money, Sting might actually do it. For enough money, I would probably do it. It's to pay me to stick around. And Paul Carpenter, I met Beth Phoenix, LOL. That should be her name. You're saying Betty. I mean, I'm just like, is that her name? Is it Betty Wayne? That'd be kind of funny, actually, because her husband was named Buddy. So, Buddy and Betty. that would be amusing. It's a Sting snow globe, says Casey. We should all take guesses as far as what the gift is that Tony Khan is going to give to Sting next week. Maybe it will be his supply. Let's be the booker.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to be the booker.
Thank you for the likes. Keep hitting that thumbs up button. It does help out the video on all the streams. Let's begin things here. Kick things off. Men's Be the Booker. And we begin with the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock, who was nearly beaten to death by the Nasty Boys, or at least Jerry Sags, while Brian Knobbs, drunk off his ass, slept in the hotel bed face down. Ken Shamrock, you want that story, it's up on the channel. Go find the video. Ken Shamrock going to go one-on-one with the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes and Ken Shamrock. There's a main event match for you. How about that? Who would win in a match between Cody Rhodes and Ken Shamrock? All right, let's book a women's match, and let's start off with the NWA Women's World Champion. Actually, is she still the Women's Champion? I thought she lost it. Well, if she isn't, she was for a very long time. I think over 500 days. Camille Brickhead. Look at Caprice. Is that Caprice Coleman? This looks like it's actually from Ring of Honor. When was Camille in Ring of Honor? Well, there's Camille. And it will be Camille going one-on-one with Zelina Vega. You know, these matches between the stronger opponent and the smaller opponent can sometimes be very good. So I'm going to take a flyer on this and give it the bell, because I think Camille and Zelina could end up being a lot better than some people think it might be. And she did lose the title, huh? Ah, well. I think she was champion for over 500 days, though. She had a nice long run as the NWA Women's Champion. And now we head over to the tag team side. We wrap things up here with some tag team Be the Booker. We begin with the former Raw Tag Team Champions, William Regal and Tajiri. I had forgotten they were even a team. William Regal and Tajiri going to be taking on Yokozuna and Owen Hart. How are we feeling about this as a match? Yokozuna and Owen Hart against William... Well, you know what? It gets Owen Hart and William Regal in the ring. What the hell am I thinking? Any match that gets Owen Hart and William Regal in the ring together can't be anything but a bell. So there you go. How about that? 3 bells. We went 3 for 3. Clean sweep. That's how you do it. That is how you do it. Ring the damn bell. That's right. The wrestler says ring the damn bell. That's exactly what I did. Shout out to Near. I hope I just emailed you back earlier today. I hope Near is staying safe and doing well. We must stop Hamas for Israelis and Palestinians. You said it. There you go, my friend. I hope you stay safe. I hope you stay safe, wherever you may be. Yoko, underrated theme. Yeah, I mean, it's a very basic theme, but it worked for him. It worked for the gimmick. Regal would probably have some funny sells for Yokozuna. Yeah, I would think so. 2 questionable bells. Look, I mean, everyone's upset that I gave the bell to Camille and Zelina Vega. I said, I'm taking a flyer on that match. I think it could be a lot better than people are giving it credit for. The Winston Slip has been a channel member for 9 months. I love my channel members, man. My channel members that are left, you guys are ride or die. Sting losing to Triple H was worse than Brock Lesnar ending The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. Debatable, but I kind of share the same energy. Wano Campo coming in with the $2. Would Sting's last match sell out an indoor stadium? It depends on the size of the stadium. I'm going to say no. Sting's last match, if that's the only real attraction on the show, I'm going to say no. But there are stadiums that will fit 25,000 people. There are stadiums that fit 50,000 people. If AEW tried to sell tickets to a stadium show for 25,000 tickets and it was Sting's last match, I still think they would struggle to sell out. I think they would sell well, but I still don't think they would sell out. I think it would take more than just that. Especially, we're talking domestic. They put 81,000 people or 85,000 people in the building at Wembley Stadium. First time show, first time in the UK. Domestically, though, they've been struggling quite a bit. So it's going to take more than that if they wanted to put at least 25,000 people in a stadium here in this country. Rumpelmane coming in with a super chat. Says, is Batista for the John Cena? Is Batista for the John Cena? I'm confused. You're confused. You're confused. You're not the only one who's confused. I have no idea what you tried to say in that super chat. Is he for the John Cena? If your question is he a better actor than John Cena? The answer is yes. I've answered that question before, too. I've had people ask me who's the best wrestler turned actor in terms of their acting skills, or, between Batista, Cena, and Rock, who's the best actor? The answer is Batista. Dave Bautista has honestly been a revelation as far as his Hollywood career is concerned. So I'm going to be back with you on Friday night. That is our next live stream here on the channel. We'll be talking Friday Night SmackDown. And if you missed episode 830 of the podcast, a lot of good stuff, over 2 hours long, please go and check it out on Spreaker, on Spotify. You can leave comments and a review on Spotify as well. And I did a countdown. WWE came out with a countdown of the top 25 moments in SmackDown history. It was a very flawed list. And so I went over that list, and I put together my own list of the top 15 moments in SmackDown history. So I want you guys to go check it out. That's actually up on the channel as well right now. Go check it out. Let me know what you think about my list. What would your list look like? We got some good discussion going on under that video, so I want to hear from you guys. Did I like Guardians of the Galaxy? I did. The first one, right? Yeah, I did. I didn't see all of them, but I saw the first one. I enjoyed it. Is green Twix a good idea for Halloween? Green Twix? If your Twix is green, I wouldn't be eating it. That means it is beyond its expiration date. That's like saying my bread has mold. My bread has a blue beard. Should I be eating it? No. That would be ambitious of AEW to sell out Madison Square Garden. WWE would not be happy if they try to run the Garden. If AEW tries to run the Garden, they're not selling it out. Right now? I mean, they were just at Arthur Ashe, and they couldn't even put, as many people. I think they had 13,000 people last year. They couldn't even put 13,000 people. They got about 10 or 11,000. Selling out Madison Square Garden is not going to happen. Favorite candy as a kid? All of it. All of the above. My God, I used to have fruit. What was it? Fruit by the Foot. Fruit by the Foot was a favorite. Polly-O string cheese. Well, that's not candy, but no, I was, Twix, Kit Kat, Snickers. I was a fan of all that. Milky Way. Can't wait for Halloween, right? Everyone's going to come around looking for candy, and I'm going to do the Solomonster tradition for Halloween, where I turn all the lights out, and I stay as quiet as possible and pretend that I'm not home, so that if anybody rings the doorbell, they go away. That is how I plan to spend my Halloween. I seem like a Starlight Mints guy. No, but Starburst. Starburst was another favorite of mine. Oh, don't eat that stuff. Don't eat that stuff. It's terrible for you. It's terrible for your teeth. Don't eat it. Don't eat that stuff. All right. Well, we're getting ready for Halloween, my favorite holiday. I can't wait. And again, I will see you guys again live on Friday night. We'll be back for the SmackDown review. So until then, be well, stay safe. Thank you for all of the support. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope you enjoyed the review. Come on back Friday night, and we will do it all over again. Justin G., you're late. Watch the replay and come back on Friday. I'll see you guys for SmackDown. Take care. Hey, Kevin Jordan. I see that super chat. Kevin Jordan coming in with a late $5. Wants to know, who is one wrestler that you wish you could meet? Well, if you're including wrestlers who are no longer with us, I gotta go Macho Man Randy Savage. Ooh, yeah. Wish I could have met the Macho Man. Didn't get the chance. And Skywalker, you get the last word. Thank you for the $1.99. I'll see you guys on Friday.